Hello and welcome back to the CJ Bushido channel. Today we're going to do a bit of a deep dive and overview of the Awoken faction. This is because 3 days ago, a commenter by the name of Uti der Held asked for exactly this type of video, and who am I to deny him his wishes, especially if asked so kindly. So Uti, this video is for you, and yeah, let's just dive straight in. What are we looking at? This is the Army Builder 2.0 mod for Tabletop Simulator, which I highly recommend everybody gets because it's not only a fantastic way to get in more games online with people you would never be able to meet in real life. It also has this Army Builder function, which has just quickly become my favorite way to learn about factions, to build my lists, because I can just have it laid out all in front of me and then just look at stuff. And I'm a visual learner, so this is excellent for me. Okay, and as we're talking about the Awoken, we're just going to mouse over to the Awoken here, and there's a lovely little button here called Place, and we're going to place, and all of the faction cards and extras are all going to just appear. Sweet. But before we go into the cards in detail, let's talk about the Awoken faction. So who are the Awoken? The Awoken are at the time of release of this video, the newest full faction released by GCT. And the very first time I looked at them, I thought they were the single worst faction ever designed. Boy, was I wrong. Because what I only saw was, oh, it's a gimmick faction, they have one thing that they do really well, and everything else is super subpar. Yeah, I could not have been more wrong. After having played against Awoken a lot, and theory crafted some lists, I am more and more impressed by how well designed this faction is and how interesting they are to play. And currently they're one of my favorite factions in all of Bushido, even though I don't play them, which is the worst thing about this. I don't even play them and I think they're amazing. So props to GCT designer guys. I don't know who it was, probably Jason. Man, this is a banger of a faction, by the way. And I hope throughout this video that I can impress that upon you and at least change maybe some of your minds for people who only think it's all about high fear values. It really isn't. And that's the beauty of this faction. Okay, so the Awoken are more commonly we call them the Spiders, the Spider faction. They have tons of very scary spider ladies that eat your face and scare you to death while doing so. So that's like the general flavor of them. And the spider is actually a fantastic metaphor for how I think they should play. They are really good at being patient, just setting out their trap and waiting for the opponent to walk into it, and then they pounce. And they have many abilities and skills that make them very strong in this playstyle of waiting out the opponent. They get free wait actions, for example, generate their action advantage, and when the opponent is exhausted and all tangled up in their webs, then they go in for the kill. They're not a straight-up brawling faction, and we'll look at the profiles and probably notice that quite quickly. And Awoken players should probably be just a little bit careful with their factions profiles in the beginning, because they can die quite quickly even though they look like they're very strong in melee. You have to be a little bit more careful with them. They're not Minimoto. Okay, so currently there is one theme for the Awoken. I'll just drag that out for here right now, called Joyless Smiles and Dark Eyes, and they allow Kumo, Cultists, Ronin Yokai, and Ronin Tenbatsu in the list, and have a stipulation you have to have at least as many Jakuna models as non-Jakuna models. It's kind of impossible to not fulfill this right now. And they have some unique effects that we'll talk about a little bit later, but this is the only theme for now. So you can either play it in this theme or themeless. I don't really see a reason to go themeless right now, because this theme is just really good and you can play everything you want anyway. And the other super important thing to know about them is they have a unique trait called Kumo, which is spider in Japanese. Surprise, surprise. And it has some very important things that it does on this trait. If this model deals damage in a melee exchange, it gains key tokens equal to the enemy model's key statistic and heals 1 damage. This is really nice. Not only do you have some passive healing, by hitting people, you also gain key tokens. So if you damage a key 1 model, you'll gain 1 key. They don't lose the key, you just gain that. And if you hit a key 2 model, you'll gain 2 key. This is super, super important for the Awoken faction as a whole, because they don't generate key naturally. They all have a key stat of 0. So it's very important to find ways to generate key, and this is one lovely way of doing it. It's hitting people. But again, be careful, this is not a melee faction per se, but if you can, nice way to do it. Furthermore, the Kumo trait reads, this model begins the game with 2 key tokens. As we talked about, because they don't generate key naturally, that's a great little thing. At least you start with 2. Also, you ignore size modifiers to the challenge number when performing a ranged attack or ranged challenge test against this model. Many of the faction's models are on medium or large bases and are also classified as medium or large models, which means usually shooting against them would be easier because you lower the challenge number. The Kumo ignore this, which is a really nice just way of not getting shot to pieces by some of the stronger ranged threats that exist in Bushido, and just helping them out. Like other factions that rely on larger bases have typically struggled against ranged attackers, and the Kumo don't really have to deal with that for multiple reasons, one of them being the Kumo trait. So that's really nice already. And all of your main models have this Kumo trait, so it's just something that flavors all your profiles and makes them that little bit different, which I really enjoy about the game. Okay, we're just quickly going to skim over the main profiles, and we're going to notice something immediately. So here we have a melee pool of 3 and a key stat of 0. Melee pool 2, key stat of 0. Melee pool 3, key stat of 0. Melee pool 3, key stat of 0. Melee pool 3, key stat of 0. Melee pool 2, key stat of 0. 3, 0, 3, 0. And then the cultists that are slightly different. We have 2, 3, 3 for melee stats and 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, which isn't amazing, but hey, it's something. But we'll ignore these for now. Just looking at the spiders ending at Tashi here, all of the spiders, or Kumo, or whatever you want to call them, have a key stat of 0. They do not generate ki naturally. I know I've said this, but it's important because ki makes these models good. All of the fun stuff is locked behind their ki feats, and you want ki. You start the game with 2 ki because your Kumo models gain it from the Kumo trait, but after that, all bets are off. No more ki for you. You need to find ways to generate ki, such as hitting people in melee. There are also other ways to do it, and we'll go over those. But in general, ki is a valuable resource, and you want to be careful about how you spend it. You do want to spend it, don't get me wrong. Don't save it up for next game, that's not very helpful. But you have to choose how you spend it. So there is a lot of interesting decision points during the game of when do you do what to get the most benefit out of them, which I really enjoy about their faction design. The other thing is, people who've looked at some other factions of Bushido will immediately notice, hey, where's the elite fighter? Where's the melee 4? Yeah, it doesn't exist. We don't have that. The Awoken are either melee pool 2, which is a classic support model, or melee pool 3, which is an average model. Oh, and also none of them are samurai, which means none of them have the prowess trait, which allows a reroll during a melee exchange, which means you're just, at best, 3 dice straight up. Oh, also, yeah, we don't have a lot of ki, so not a lot of ki boosting will happen either, which means you're probably stuck at your 3 dice at best. And going toe-to-toe with some of the elite fighters in the game who have 4 melee pool and a whole slew of melee traits to go along with it, such as dodge, feint, parry, prowess, yeah, that's not going to be a fun time. And that's why I would say the Awoken are not a melee faction per se, like not a beatstick faction. They can do it, and they can be pretty good at it. But in general, you shouldn't think of them that way in my eyes. They do have 1 or 2 very interesting traits, however, that helps them in fights. One of them being they're all strong, which means you roll 3 dice and keep the 2 highest when you do hit with either melee or ranged. So that's also already pretty cool. The other thing is many, not all, importantly, Tashi and Kyo do not have Indomitable 8. The other Kumo all have Indomitable 8, which means being outnumbered is not a problem. You will not suffer a negative on your melee dice pool for being outnumbered. That's really, really nice. And melee, like Indomitable 8, I I cannot fathom a world where it is possible to outnumber a model that has Indomitable 8, unless you're somehow reducing that number significantly and way overdoing it. So that's at least something really nice. And they're also all aware. So it's not as easy to surprise them. It's possible, but it's not that easy. And their zone of control extends 360 degrees around their base, which is really nice. So they have some minor traits that help them in melee, especially strong, but they're not melee fighters, and you really, really shouldn't. What's the big gimmick here, though? I think you probably all have seen this Fear X value. Fear is a very strong mechanic, as it can stop people attacking you if they're too scared to get into base-to-base with you, but how high is their fear value? Well, the X is how many Kumos you have on the battlefield, which means if you have 6 Kumo models on the battlefield, you have a fear value of 6. If you have 7, you'll have fear 7. 8 if you have 8 Kumo models, and then whoa, yeah, fear 8, that's not very easy to pass. Like, key 1 models are just, already stuck at fear 7. They just can't engage without supporting traits such as leadership or courage or spirit or something. And even fear 7 or fear 8, like, these are significant roadblocks for many models in the game that would just be too scared to engage you. And this is where a little bit of your melee prowess or strength comes in, is if you can frighten an enemy model by moving into base to base and they fail their fear check, they'll lose a melee dice and they'll become defensive. And all of a sudden, your Kumo have a much better time, even against strong samurai with 3 or 4 melee dice. If they're down 1 dice, well, sweet, then they're down to 2 or 3 dice. That's much more manageable. Oh, and they're also defensive, which means not that much attack is coming back your way just because they aren't allowed to go more melee dice into attack than defense. The best they can do is an equal split. However, this also means if you're not able to frighten your opponent, and there are many models and skills that can circumvent this, you're not going to have a great time in melee. And this is why you have to be very careful and selective about the models you engage, or are engaged by, for that matter. So a lot of the Awoken gameplay is focused around understanding what models are the actual threat to my list. Who do I actually have to, take care of or be scared by and play around, and who is not a threat? Who can I largely ignore? And understanding that will make you a much, much better Awoken player, and also make you better at playing against Awoken, by the way. It goes the same way around. In the same vein, fearless models, or soulless models who just don't take a fear test, they just do not care, can be very dangerous for the Awoken. And in fact, especially soulless models, as we'll discover later, just completely do not care about your entire faction. And there are enough soulless models running around in the game that is a concern. For the Awoken player, that is. For me, as I don't play Awoken, that's fantastic news, because it's a great way to counter the Awoken is take a few soulless models, because you ignore their 2 best gimmicks, and we'll get to the second one later, and you get to have a good time. Alright, but let's kind of understand more in general, what are the profiles? What do they really do? Hana, the Grace and Murder, if there is a melee specialist in this faction, she is that melee specialist. Why? She has some key feats on the back of her card that make her better in melee, and she also has a very powerful melee weapon at +2 damage, and a stronger poison value and Pierce 1, so she's no slouch when she hits. And looking at the backside of her card, she can gain Brutal +1, Impenetrable to Defense, and Prowess Attack, which is actually really nice, until the end of the current activation, and it's only once per turn, so you can't have it all the time. It's also an active feat, and it costs 3. This is something you do very sparingly, but it is a way to actually have a very solid melee model for 1 activation. And the other very, very interesting skill she has is Starless Midnight Chitin. For 3 in an instant, you gain armor equal to its fear value until the end of the current activation. So after the melee dice have been rolled, and you'll see, you're facing down, and maybe a success level 6 attack, well, you can just slam on some armor, and maybe that might be 7 armor, for example, and that one hit will be mitigated quite a bit. Then you can expect to maybe take 4 damage or 3 or something, depending on the success level, instead of maybe 7 or 8, which might even kill you. So it's a very, very useful thing. Once per game. Shame, again, 3 key is a lot for the Awoken, but it's a nice thing to have and also to threaten the opponent with. And also she can boost her strength, so she can hit quite hard. She doesn't have any other real unique effects other than her fear value is the number of friendly Kumo models on the battlefield. So again, if you have 7 Kumo models in your list on the battlefield, she'll have fear 7, which is kind of cool. But other than that, she doesn't really do anything special. She hits people, and she does it quite well, but she's also 19 rice, which is a lot of rice. So she's a sometimes food in my eyes. The other thing we're just going to look at right now, because we'd have to talk about it for every profile, is she has 0 key stat. How does she pass key tests? Well, she has Spirit, and in this case Spirit 3, which means if you're in an opposed key test, or anything that demands a key challenge off of you, you will gain 3 dice for that challenge. So you'll be rolling with 3 dice, which is really, really good, by the way. So she's not helpless against key feats, it's just she doesn't generate the key. That's the difference of her actually having key stat 3 and spirit 3. Alright, let's move on. Akita, Princess of Fear and Pain. This is the faction right here. This is the model that makes the faction work in my eyes and makes the faction incredibly dangerous. She has an ability that is just disgusting, but we'll get to that. She's a supporter, shows she has a 2 melee pool, and all of the same really. She has a 0 key stat, can hold up to 6, which is quite nice. The average speed with 4. She has a bit of a meh melee weapon with a +0 mandible attack, doesn't do poison, but it has drag attack 0, grapple attack 1, that's cute I guess. Spirit of 3, which is really, really nice, and Fear X, Kumo, Strong, Aware, all of the classic Kumo traits. And she has a lot of fun stuff on the back of her card. The most important one is the first one, but we'll just go quickly over the other ones. Fate cannot be cheated, 1 key active within 8, and it's an opposed key test against enemies. If a target model is rolling for any test, you can't re-roll, which means, hey, you can turn off a lot of the more scary re-rolls in the game, such as prowess or feint or parry, not parry, dodge, I wanted to say, some of the Silver Moon re-rolls and all that jazz. And you can even the playing field with all of your regular Kumo, such as Hana, who don't get all of these abilities. So that's really nice to have in your back pocket. And terror-inducing performance, simple key feat, unlimited range for 1. It's an aura. Enemy models with poison and frightened markers suffer -2 melee penalty rather than -1 for frightened. And we can already see here, okay, so there's some sort of synergy going on between poison and frightening people. I haven't seen this specific key feat used a whole lot, because if you're poisoned and frightening someone, they're probably in trouble anyway, but it's a nice thing to know. I mean, -2 melee is really big. However, why she doesn't usually get to do this is because out of the 6 keys she can hold, she needs 5 for Destiny's Fear, and this is your bread and butter. Once per turn, if you have 5 key, which again, not easy to do but possible, you get to roll a number of d6 equal to the number of friendly Kumo models in play. That means if you have 5 or more Kumo models, for the purposes of this ability, it's on. You reroll 1s and dice value with the same value until all dice have unique values. That will happen with 5 Kumo models or more, because you're rerolling your 1s, and all dice with the same value. Until the end phase, poisoned enemy models consider any dice they roll that match those rolled for this feat to be a value of 1. That is disgusting. So let's say you have 7 Kumo models on the field, you'll be rolling 7 dice, re-rolling all unique values and 1s, and if you manage to roll a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6, poisoned enemy models don't get to roll dice. Everything counts as 1, which counts as 0 if they don't have kata. This will shred your opponent. And by the way, this is not a post key. There's nothing they can do about this, and it's all poison models. So if you can poison a model or two, or maybe even three, and then turn this on and roll 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, those models are essentially dead. Any attack you do is basically free. Again, if they don't have kata, but even then they're in trouble. This is why I think she is the lifeblood of the faction, in the same way Keita is the lifeblood of Loyalist Chiho, as we went into in the Shiho video. She just does something that is so game-warpingly strong. I feel you should try and focus on getting to do this. Destiny Sphere is the way you destroy the elite samurai. So, for example, you're facing, I don't know, Hagane, because I used her in the last video as well. She's a classic, super elite, dangerous samurai. If you can poison her, and you can do this key feat, she is irrelevant, because she's rolling all ones, and then Kumo of your choice, for example Hana, can just walk up to her and say, hey, let's do a melee exchange. Hana will roll her 3 dice, and Hagane can roll whatever dice she has, doesn't really matter. And she's taking a big hit, because she has rolled a defense value of 0 and attack value of 0. So you can go all out attack, and I mean, obviously you don't have your own rerolls to deal with, but hey, you might get a success level 5 or a 6 or something on her. And, oh yeah, you're also strong, and Hana has a +2 damage weapon. Yeah, Hagane's probably going to die in one hit. And if you can do that to one of the most elite samurai in the game, you can probably do that to anything you touch. There are notable exceptions, but yeah, that's not nice. Importantly, the model has to be poisoned though, which means you are scared of immune poison models. Probably these are even worse than immune fear, which is why I think Soulless is more valuable than Fearless for the opponent of the Awoken, because the Soulless model is not only fearless, it is also immune to the opposed key test that some of your models have, but more importantly, immune poison. And it just says, all of your tricks don't work on me, I'm coming to get you. If you're an Awoken player, look out for soulless models, identify what they are, and figure out a plan to deal with them. It's not going to be the standard plan of poison it, curse it, kill it. Alright, let's move on. Then we have Chinatsu, who's a all-around just solid model, and what she really does is 2 things. One, she shoots a special attack called Baleful Discharge in 4 inches, where the success level of your hit is the amount of poison markers your opponent will get. So it's a nice way of doing poison at range, but it is fairly short range. And the other really, really strong ability she has is Mind Fogging Technique. It's a once per game, but it says while enemy models in the aura, which is unlimited, so on the table, are within the area of webbed ground terrain, which you will be putting down, we'll get to that later, they may not perform scenario actions. That's incredible. That is a really strong ability. She just says, no, you're not doing that today. And then you get to push all the buttons, influence the idols, and secure a free VP. Really, really strong. She can poison at range. Good model. But she is expensive. Do keep that in mind. 19 rice is a lot of rice, especially for Kumo, because the more Kumo you have, the scarier you are. And yeah, it's a thing. And you also need multiple Kumo for Akita's ability as well. Ayumi, I feel, is the most undervalued Kumo model. I think she's amazing, and you should be putting her in every list. Oh, excuse me, no, Amy, but whatever. Ayumi, yeah, must pick model, sorry. She has an incredibly filthy, strong range attack. Pierce 2 +2 damage. Fire 1/2. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's strong, so you roll 3 dice, keep the 2 highest. No ammo, no reloading, you just do it. That's her job. She walks around and she spits fire on people and damage. You can one-shot a lot of models. It's terrifying. She's great. Also, the Bite of 10,000 Spiderlings is the most important active feat in the faction. One enemy model in contact with web ground terrain gains a poison 1 marker. Oh, they're poisoned. Now you can curse them. It's active. It's great. It's once per turn for good reason, but this is the easiest way to poison an enemy. If they're not immune, you just put them into webbed ground, and you poison them, and off you go. Great model. If you're not picking her, I question your sanity. Amy, sorry, this is the model who is undervalued in my eyes. They're the same rice and close to the name, that's why I mixed them up. On the surface, she doesn't look amazing. Like, yeah, she does the Kumo thingy, and she can psychic drain, so she can drain ki off people and charge herself up. That's cool. And she has a bit of a meh ability and monstrous arachnid presence with disturb flow. I mean, and only on poison models. That's kind of situational. I've never seen it used. However, she has the channel ability if she does a wait action. That's great. That means she can steal ki from other people or gain it in other ways and give it off to the Kumo who actually need it, such as Akita right over here, because you need 5 on her, and Amy is the best way of loading her up. I also feel this is a must-pick model in every list because she just puts ki on models that need it, and all of your strong stuff is online, and she's also only 15 rice for what she does, and she's fine as well. She's 3 melee pool. She has poison on her weapon. She has this massive fear ability. She has spirit 2 and willpower and strong. She just ticks all of the boxes. Ren, this is an amazing model. Again, please pick it. Not only she's only 6 rice and she's a Kumo, like you're not going to find cheaper. And what the big thing she does is she can heal, which is really, really, really good. And she can also use Shadow Tendrils, which is a really annoying ability. She only has a key stat of 2 with Spirit 2. So it's not guaranteed to succeed or anything. No willpower and no high key stat. But it's useful. Where you give an enemy -3 move. That's nice. But she's amazing just for the heal ability alone and being a cheap Kumo. You have Kyo, who sees behind. Again, a sort of a middling one, and we've, as you can notice here, only 6 HP now from Ren and onwards. These are slightly weaker ones, and after Ren, these ones don't even have Indomitable, but they still have Strong and Kumo and Fear and Aware and all that stuff. She has some Pierce, that's nice. But her big thing is really Spider in a Web for 3 ki. Everybody in 6 inches has to take a size challenge test, and if they don't make it, they're immobilized, which is really, really nice. Very, very flavorful for the Kumo. Good model, don't get me wrong, but not something I have to have in my list. And then Tashi, the last of the Kumo models. I really like this model. She's again like an average fighter with 3 and strong and Kumo and fear and all that. Bit of an unremarkable weapon again, but what she does once per game is amazing. Unreasonable 8-foot stride. So it's a simple action for 2 ki once per game. Place this model in contact with any web ground terrain. So what you'll be doing throughout the game is placing webs, and she can just teleport. That's cool. That's really, really strong. So you can just jump around the battlefield and be where you need her to be once, but it's really, really good. So also a model I really like including in lists. I think she's really good. Play around with her, but don't be too aggressive with her. Again, you're not a beatdown faction. She needs to know what she's engaging and has to be slightly careful about target selection. Then I'm going to group these models together. They are the cultists of the faction. They do not have the Kumo trait or keyword. They're not strong, but what they all are they are aware, they're fearless, and they have the cultist 1 4-inch ability. So they can deal damage to one of the cultists, either themselves or one of the other ones, to gain more ki. And the way I really see them is they're key batteries for the Kumo. There are many ways where you can steal this ki and get it usable for your models. For example, Ren is allowed to leech off of these models, so Ren can power herself up and then throw out more Shadow Tendrils, for example. Interesting tidbit about all of these models is they begin the game with 6 poison markers. So they're slowly going to die over the course of the game, but that's kind of their job anyway. It's not terrible if they die. They're all quite cheap, and you can throw them into an enemy just to slow them down. And they also have abilities where you're going to be killing them yourself. So I don't really see the poison as a problem. Also, in the theme, Joyless Eyes and Dark Smiles, you only ever resolve one poison marker instead of the regular poison rules, so they're only taking 1 damage per turn. So it's kind of a slow tick down. They're great models and they're really undervalued. I don't see them enough. And we'll go into why later. Basically, they're utility pieces, and they get to do a lot of fun stuff that the Kumo don't get to do, and you have a lot of events that make them really interesting to play. Right, 1 sip of tea later, let's move on. The next thing that is very unique to the Kumo and the Awoken faction is all of the terrain they can bring to the table. They have a variety of interesting terrain pieces, and we'll go into them now, as well as I've just seen here the last profile we haven't talked about, but that one's a special one anyway. So they have a trapdoor. This is how they could gain flank, and there is some shenanigans about being able to attack from it while you're elsewhere and all that. I don't feel this is currently that good. I think we need to wait for a Kumo that feels more like a trapdoor spider, basically, and can make better use of the flanking and the attacking from elsewhere. It's fun to think about, but I kind of don't value it right now, especially as, if I understand correctly, the Kumo trait is asking for models on the battlefield, not in play. So anything elsewhere doesn't count for the fear value, which I really don't like. But it is there, and it's an option. Then web victims. These are free, and these are great. First of all, they're impassable, obscuring large. You can hide behind these for cover. Again, this helps you against shooting. And if you're in base to base with them in the starting phase, you gain 1 key. This is huge. I cannot understate how important this is. For example, to have Akita in base to base with one of these web victims. This is one of the ways you gain key for free, and you really need these. Also, your opponent can destroy them for a scenario point, so do be careful with them. They are destructible for a wait action and 2 key. But what these are key batteries, and they're free, and you get to place them, and you get to place the cover down. So you also have to be careful about how the terrain is set up, that you don't block yourself from really nice positions. Great little terrain pieces you really want in every list, and you want to maximize in every list. Then egg sacs. We're going to skip this for now and first talk about the Endless Procession, because then these will make way more sense. The last profile we haven't talked about in the Awoken faction, and if you ask me, the most broken. These guys are insane, and I fully expect them to get nerfed soon, because they are not okay. They are unbelievably good. Okay, what are we looking at? 8 rice for an animal yokai, the Endless Procession, with you can have up to 3 of them with 3 health each. They have a little bit of a weak attack on -1, but Pierce 2 and Poison 1, which is important. Combo attack 0, and this will be important in a second. They're aware, they're Kumo, Swarm, Tiny, Indomitable 8. They're also insignificant and tireless, so hey, that's really cool. They're durable. This is This is bad news bears. And by the way, they're also fast. The X on their card is the number of health they have, is their key stat and their melee stat. So when they're at full HP, they'll be at 3 key and 3 melee, and if they take a damage, they'll go down to 2. If they take 2 damage, they'll go down to 1. But that's not really a problem, as we're going to discuss right now. Basically, what these guys do are they are walls, and anything without combo attack is going to lose the fight to them. As weird as that sounds. Yeah, elite samurai who do not have combo attack or maybe critical attack are going to die for 8 rice. Because you're durable, so you do not need to care about them if they don't have combo attack. You go full attack with a free combo attack, so that's 3 dice combo attack. Oh, and don't forget, these have the Kumo trait. So not only do they contribute to the fear value of the other Kumo who are scary, these aren't, but they get to heal when they hit people. So, for example, you're fighting Scary Samurai hits you, you lose 1 HP, but you're still rolling 3 because it's at the same time. You've rolled a full combo attack back. Let's say you've got a success value of 3 or 4 because they didn't really know what they were doing. Well, if you just hit them once, you've already healed back to 3. Oh, and you've poisoned the enemy, so now you can curse them, and they're taking damage if they're not tough. And then, yeah, you're also tireless, so if they attacked you, you didn't even lose an activation counter, and then you just do that again, and again, and again, and not many models can just stand up to taking 3 dice free combo attacks every turn that poison them. And if you've cursed the enemy model, this is just straight up going to shred them. they are bonkers good. Yeah, the best model in faction, take them. Now let's just quickly look at egg sacs and make this really degenerate, by the way. So these egg sacs are terrain pieces you place. They're normal, clear, medium, destructible, and they cost 2 rice each. And when an enemy model comes into contact with this terrain element, the egg sac's terrain element is destroyed and removed. And when it is destroyed, you summon one of these spiders into contact somewhere within the base area of the egg sac. You can put it into base to base with 1 unmarked wound box. And you can't have more than the wound track allows, so you can't buy 3 and the egg sacs and blow them up for 5. You can have a maximum of 3 swarms. But this is a great way to get swarms in for cheap. However, they come in with 1 health, which means they have 1 melee pool, and then they just need to take 1 hit and they die. Be careful with them. Can be really good to block off like an idol or something, but you really want Ren to move in and heal them, because then they're at full and they do nasty things again. Even worse is, who said the enemy has to break these? I went into this a little bit in my Awoken Musings video, but I find it stronger most of the time to break them yourself. Yes, the 2 key to break it is valuable on the Kumo, but hey, that's what you have cultists for. They have the cultist ability, so first turn, they can run up into contact and deal 1 point of damage to themselves to go up to key 2, and their second activation is they can break the egg sac open. Then, Ren can activate and walk up to the egg sac and heal it. And you can do that to the other one as well, and you've basically cheated in 16 rice of insane models for 4 rice and a few activations. Do that. It's good. Yeah, and then you have 3 durable swarms with the Kumo trait running around, combo attacking people to death, and if they're ever in trouble and take some damage, Ren just walks into contact and heals them. This is degenerate. They're great. They're amazing. They're broken. I love them to bits, and they terrify me. If you're playing against Awoken, take some combo attack because yikes. As the Awoken player, don't be crazy with them because they also have the Kumo trait. If they die, and enemies can just freely engage them, then they don't have fear, your fear value for your entire list is going down, which might make it easier to engage the other spiders as well. But if you pick your targets carefully, my goodness. Then we have boundary posts. This is again another terrain piece you can buy for 4 rice, which I feel is a little bit expensive for what it does. They're basically just 2 posts you set up close to the center, and if enemies are close, they are again cowardly, so they have to re-roll successful fear tests, or if they're brave, they lose bravery. It's pretty cool. And it can ask for a fear 5 test. Usually not a problem for most models. Not a big fan of these. I don't think they do enough for 4 rice, but I mean, hey, feel free to experiment. And then web ground, and this is again bread and butter thing for the entire faction. This is normal clear 0, so it's just there. It's just some spider webs. They don't really impede you in any way. But when a model that is not Kumo contacts a web ground terrain during a walk, melee, run, or charge, it loses 1 inch of movement cumulative for each web ground contacted, to a minimum of 1 inch. So you can really slow down the opponent with these. Place them in places that are critical for moving through or in contact with idols. You can just shove them under the idol, for example. So the opponent has to come into contact. And then, by the way, when they walk in, Ayumi, if we remember, where is she? Over here, with the bite, says, oh, you've moved into it? I'm active player now? Yeah, you're poisoned. Have fun. Really, really good combo. So you have a lot of interesting decisions on when and where you place your web ground. And while within web ground terrain, enemy models lose cloud walk and camouflage, which is really strong, and you gain a free sidestep attack and sidestep defense. That's pretty cool. Also, while they're within the web ground, enemy models using a key feat or key boost increase the cost by 1, and when they do that, one friendly Kumo model gains a key token. You can only have 5 web ground in play at any time, just to make sure it doesn't go crazy, but this is a great way of poisoning your enemy, slowing them down, and gaining key. Web ground play, and doing it properly, and maximizing it, is half of the entire faction. Really, it is. It's that good. You can cheat just place them into play with a lot of the Kumo abilities. Many of the Kumo, let's look at Ayumi, for example, on her unique effects on the back. This model may perform a wait action to put a web ground terrain into play, into base to base with this model, or in contact with any web ground terrain already on the field. And if this model begins its activation within a web ground terrain feature, then it does not lose an activation counter for the first time each turn it performs this wait action. Not only do you get a web ground terrain, you can do it for free once per turn with those spiders that have this unique effect, roughly half of them. It's also an activation and a free wait action, which means you can out-activate your opponent, be patient, remember, wait until the opponent has out-activated themselves, they're exhausted, making many of their models weaker again if they don't have endurance, and then you pounce. You go in, you try and frighten them, and then they're exhausted and frightened, they're -2 melee pool, and then your Kumo spiders are decent in a fight. This is super, super, super strong, by the way. So you also want in your lists a few Kumos that can place down web ground. This is, however, also what makes the Awoken, in my eyes, one of the more difficult to play factions, because you have not only your entire game plan and synergies and weird and wacky abilities going on, you're also playing a sub-game of waiting out your opponent and placing down web ground at the same time. And you can only place down 5 at a maximum, and if you've placed 5, you're done. One of them has to be broken either by the opponent or by you before you can place another one. So do be sparing with them and try to put them in places that really, really matter. What is really, really cool to know is because you can wait out your opponent, and let's just say, dream scenario, your opponent has out-activated himself, so they're all exhausted, nothing more for them to do, and you have like 3 or 4 more activations. What you could do, if they're too close to your web grounds, is activate one of your Kumo, place a web ground under the opposing model that you need gone for a free wait action. Then, because you're still the active player, you spend 1 key on Ayumi to poison them, so they're poisoned. Your opponent exhausted, activation passes back to you. Akita activates and does her 5 key curse, which means now the opponent model is already poisoned and only rolling 1s, probably. And then you just move the Kumo into contact with that model and destroy it. You can expect to do at least 6 wounds to that thing. It's bad. This is how you insta-gib many models in the game. Anything that isn't immune poison is in trouble. If they're not rolling anything, like they have a 0 roll in defense, on average with 3 dice in attack and strong, you should probably one-shot things. That is so powerful, and is basically the entire 80% of the gameplay with and against Awoken focuses around this mechanic in my eyes. So the opponent is trying to deny you good web ground placement by just keeping out of range or trying to tempt you to place it badly or inefficiently, while you're trying to do the opposite to the opponent. And again, this is why they're so difficult to play, because it gets a lot of getting used to. And understanding that once you place it, you can't go back, it's down. You'd have to break it yourself, which is costly and key, and sometimes you just don't have that. And also it costs an activation, don't forget. While the opponent knows that you're slow and can use the start of and middle of the turn to beat down on you. Alright, so that's a general overview of the Awoken faction. They have some interesting event cards that we can just quickly run through, I guess. There are 10 of them. Let me just place them. Again, this is why this tool is so great. You can just have all the cards right in front of you and look at them and figure out how they work together. And we'll just go through in order. Web Wrap, very, very strong. When an enemy model in base to base with a friendly Kumo would move or place, it may not move or place, except to change facing this turn. If activated, the model must declare an action permitted while in base to base. So basically this just says don't run away, stay here, we're fighting. And a lot of models get completely hosed by this. For example, the Shiho loyalists, well, you move into base to base and they do their silly virtue trick to get out, and this just says, nope, stay here. You're not spending your, well, you're spending your virtue, and now I'm cancelling it. And now we're fighting. For example, that is just, not what a lot of models want to do. Very nice little card. Sucker from the Weak. Choose a Jakuna model to gain Leech 2/4 inches. This trait may only be used on cultist models. So you can give one of your spiders, because they're also all Jakuna models, Leech, and you can Leech 2 key off of one of your cultists. So this is, again, another nice way to load up one of your Kumo that really needs the key with 2 key. Because, well, the cultists, if we remember, have a key stat of 1/3. So in turn 2, he'll have 2 key banked up, and he can also hurt himself to get more. So it's just a nice way of transferring key over to where it really needs to be. And a big hint, it's probably here because 5 key, and you want to do that multiple times in a game. Good card. And also a reason why I think taking one cultist is super strong. You have Steel Strand Webbing, play in the starting phase, choose one web ground terrain. That terrain loses destructible until the end phase. So you can stop your opponent from breaking a very important web. That can be really, really nice. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it can be good. Moment of Ignorance. Each enemy model makes a Key Challenge 5 test. If the test is failed, they transfer 1 key to a friendly Kumo of your choice. Yeah, that's nice. Lover's Last Caress. Play when a friendly Jakuna model is killed. Replace that model by summoning and deploying an endless procession of Arachnid Presence. For 3 rice, this feels a little bit expensive, but it's also a very powerful effect. Not only do you get a free swarm on full HP, which is really, really, really good. Also, because you're replacing one of your models, your fear value isn't dropping as well. Like if one of your Kumo got killed, well, then here's another one, and your fear value stays the same. Really nice card. Many lists can make good use of this. Feasting with Friends. Play this card in the starting phase. Kill a Jakuna cultist model that you own. You may allocate 4 key tokens amongst friendly Kumo models. For 1 rice, this can be really nice to surprise the opponent. And yeah, you're killing your own model, but they're 8 or 9 rice, and they're slowly dying anyway. And it's their job to provide nourishment, and that's exactly what happens here. And then all of a sudden, you might have 4 key on Akita that they didn't expect, and you're poisoning something they really didn't want poisoned. It's food for thought. I think this is a decent card. You have Curse of Immortality. This is a card I just can't figure out really if I like it or not. You play this card in the starting phase, choose an enemy model. Until the end phase, that model cannot be killed. Cannot be killed. The enemy model cannot be killed. If that model would have its final wound box marked, instead leave 1 box unmarked. By the way, this expires after poison, so don't think you can hit an enemy down to 1, poison him, and then let him die in the end phase. The poison damage happens first, they're still immortal, and then the immortality expires. So you're guaranteeing an enemy model will survive the turn with 1 HP at the worst. However, the chosen model suffers -1 to each statistic until the end phase. So you can gimp a model, right? Importantly, like the melee or range stat will go down, but don't underestimate this also means move, and if they're in web ground terrain, they are slow. Like a regular move 4 model goes down to 3, and if it's in web ground, it's down to 2 inches of movement. This might stop it doing anything useful that entire turn. Like, if your opponent is banking on moving into contact with an idol and then turning it, you can curse them and they're just not going to get there, for example. Or a melee threat just becomes that less frightening. But what I really think is interesting is playing it on a model and they lose one key stat. So not only do they become a less effective supporting model with opposed key tests, the fear test becomes a lot more difficult if you have one less key to do it with. So let's say they have a key 2 samurai with bravery. That's cool and all. Now you're key 1, and my fear value is currently 7. You can't pass that without leadership or anything. Good luck. And you're weaker. So that's a cool card. At the same time, it's 2 rice that I like to spend elsewhere, and you can't kill it for a turn. But it's definitely useful. It's a good card, I think. Then we have Clinging Web Strands. Enemy models within the area of web ground terrain, that's all of them by the way, must make a move challenge 8 or gain an immobilized marker. Yeah, not bad. Arachnophobia. We're just going to jump over this for a second. Advanced Webbing. Play this card when deploying warband terrain. Place a web ground terrain element onto the battlefield. So this means you get to place, before the game has started, one of these web grounds somewhere on the battlefield. Remember, this can be broken, and you want to be careful where you place it because you can't go back. It's one of the 5 you will place throughout the entire game. But it can give you a head start on getting your webs up the field. Definitely play around with this card. I can't decide yet if it's amazing or meh. Again, I don't play Awoken, so not sure if that's a me problem. But it's definitely an interesting card to play with. So you could place it, let's say, a few inches up the board and then have your models run into contact with it like that. And then, now I'm in contact and I can do my free weight action. So I already get my second card in or something like that. And I've got my second web in. You understand. And then the last card we're going to talk about is Arachnophobia. So play in the starting phase. X-friendly Kumo models gain Dread 0 until the end phase. X must be the number of Kumo recruited into the warband. So this is probably going to be quite expensive. I'm assuming like 6 rice or something at 5, 6, 7 rice. That's a ton. But Dread 0 means models with an equal or higher fear value still have to take the test. So where this could be really funny is in the Awoken mirror, actually. And you just play it, and for one turn, the other Awoken player just can't pass his fear tests because you're on fear 8 or something. Like, if you're both on fear 8, you'd usually just not do fear tests, but then they just have to do them because you all have dread. Kind of funny. I think it's really niche. I've never seen it played so far, and I wouldn't pick it myself, but it is funny. So, yeah, interesting card. And that's basically all the cards in the faction. Okay, but you can also, in the theme, take Ronin, and we're just going to swing over here. This is what I was hiding over here the entire time. These are the 9 Ronin cards I feel are most interesting for the Awoken faction so far that I've seen. First of all, we have the newly errata Tenbatsu. He's now 25 rice. He's just strong. He's a real beatstick. He's soulless, so he's also someone you'd have to watch out for. In the beginning of the turn, he can decide to be soulless, which is really annoying for Awoken players to deal with because he also has combo attack, so he can slice through your endless processions. But hey, you can also have your own if you want. Very good in the mirror as well. Kappa is just a really solid Ronin for 12 rice. I also appreciate what I appreciate about these 2 Ronin cards is because they have regular key generation. They're really good at breaking open X-Acts. It doesn't feel as bad as if like one of your Kumos has to do it. Then Rice Bar Barricades, like just everybody should be considering this. It's 1 rice of insane. Read through it, it good. And these 6 cards are cards I see a lot in Woken lists, and these 5 cards, and this is just one I would propose. But Balance, just to turn off enemies' rerolls, can be really strong. Preordain is just an insane card. Second Chance to have a second chance at a test. Year of the Risen Sun. All models gain 1 key token. I feel Ki is more valuable on your Awoken, so that can be just really nice to take along. Unforeseen outcome. Again, this has been errated. It's now 1 rice and works slightly differently, but basically what happens is a lot of Ki is generated on both sides now. Every time a model is damaged, the other guy gets a Ki somewhere. So you can hit people with your processions or your Kumos, and every time you do damage, you're putting up a Ki somewhere. Very, very strong to power up your list. These are exclusive with each other, as you can see here through these symbols. This is the Risen Sun symbol, the Weeping Sky symbol. They're in different cycle decks, so either or. Both interesting cards, and I'd also like play around with Triangle Knife for the mirror. If you like, you can just put it on a solid profile like Amy or something, so she has more to do, and you can gain combo attack, which can be really, really nice to deal with other swarms or with the skeletons in Cult. Definitely not a must-have card, but it's something to think about, right? And like that basically is what you currently have to play with right now. Okay, let me just check how long we've been recording. 55 minutes. Damn, that went long. Okay, just a quick reiterate what are the Kumo about, because we've gone into a lot of detail here. You are scary, you have a lot of fear, but there are a lot of ways around that fear. So what you want to do at the beginning of the game is discern what enemy models are fearless, are soulless, have courage, have spirit, have bravery, and will be able to attack my Kumo. These are the models you really want to look out for, and you also want to know which ones cannot. So which ones can you ignore that they can't attack you? What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to pick your fights, because straight up, you will be losing against Samurai, because they have more melee pool, they can boost easier, they have rerolls, they have special abilities. You want to be very careful. Things can go wrong very quickly. And you want to be playing around with web ground. Be conservative with its placement, take your time, be patient, and then place it under an enemy model too that are really important. Poison them, curse them, and kill them. That is like the general gist of dealing with problematic models. In a very, very general overview. Okay, and now, I guess why not? I'm going to load up a list I made earlier when I was looking. And this is like something I would play if I played Awoken. And we'll just quickly run through the list and how it works and what it's trying to do. So, it's obviously in the Joyless Smiles and Dark Eyes theme. It's the only theme we have, and I don't see a reason not to play it. And one thing we also didn't talk about, because I didn't talk about the theme, in the starting phase, distribute X key tokens among friendly Kumo models. X is equal to the number of enemy models in web ground terrain. This is just another way to generate key and why you want enemies in your web ground, and another reason why you want to be careful about where you're placing it. It has to be useful. Like, it doesn't help you in your deployment zone most of the time. Try and get it into scenario zones, close to idols, or place it under models that you really need to deal with. And in the starting phase, poison enemy models also gain a key block marker. That's just nice, right? Okay, so first of all, let's just look at the Kumo models I've recruited. Akita, for obvious reasons, I feel. Destiny Sphere is just insane. Ayumi, in the same way. Bite of 10,000 Spiderlings plus an incredible range threat is just too good to pass up for 15 rice. By the way, I've sorted these in what I consider their power level. Amy, again, I think she's undervalued because she has the channel ability and Psychic Drain. It's just a great way of keeping Akita going. She drains someone with her Spirit 2 and Willpower, so she's favored against Key 2 models quite heavily. And then she passes it off with a free weight action to Akita. Ren, just cheap, does healing, increases your fear value overall, and has Shadow Tendrils. That's just cool. Why wouldn't you take this? I take one of the End of Processions, and it'll soon be obvious why. Tashi, just a good model. Nothing wrong with her. She can teleport. She's useful. I take one Cultist, Hidemi, and yes, I've put him above Kyo. I think he's better than Kyo, just because he adds so much utility, and we'll talk about why. And then Kyo, just to make up the numbers of the Kumo, and to round out the list. And I have a ton of cards we're going to go into. This means, like, from the get-go, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Kumo models on the battlefield. Hidemi doesn't count as one, which means all of your spiders are Fear 7, except the Procession because it doesn't have Fear, and Hidemi, who doesn't have Fear. But the other models, the other 6 models start out at Fear 7, which is already quite strong. Like, Key 1 models without help can just not attack you, and Key 2 models are also already slightly unfavored to get into you, especially once you see what you're doing turn 1. So we have the web ground card and we have web victims, obviously. We're going to place these somewhere where especially Akita can get into base to base and just hang out, gain free key to get up to key 5 and throw out her curse. This is also really nice on Ayumi as well, because she will be spending her bite of 10,000 spiderlings probably once a turn if everything goes to plan. So she's another one who will obviously want to be in contact. And it's also nice to have Amy, so maybe they can share one like that, because she wants a channel a lot of the time. Ren also doesn't mind being in contact with one of these things, because then she can throw out more shadow tendrils, and the others don't need it as much. So again, this is where you want to think about where are your web victims, who will be profiting from base-to-base contact. But again, if everybody's in base-to-base contact, then they're also just not doing the scenario. So it's a bit of a give and take. Then we get 2 egg sacs, and we're going to place them close to our deployment zone and just, as we talked about, walk up, destroy them ourselves, get out 2 more free Arachnid Processions, and then have Ren go and heal them with her first 2 activations. So then you have 3 of these guys, which means turn 1, you have Fear 9. Good luck to the opponent who isn't fearless or soulless. Again, Hidemi doesn't have fear. He's just going to get killed if he gets up close and personal, but he should stay back. He has a different thing he's going to be doing. And the Kumo themselves don't have fear, so they can be killed. And if the opponent manages to kill all 3, you're down to Fear 6 again. So don't be overzealous, but it is really strong. And because this cost you 4 rice overall and not 16 rice, like, you've had a very hefty discount for not having them in the first turn. I feel that's insane and you should do it. I like Rice Bell Barricades, and these are the 4 events I've picked. The 2 Ronin events here, Balance and Second Chance. Balance turns off rerolls, which is really nice, and Second Chance just gives you another go at, for example, a melee test. If your opponent attacks you and you rolled rather poorly, maybe this can save your life. And another way you could use it is if you really need to kill something, and you've poisoned it, and you've cursed it, and you've gone in, and then you've just rolled absolute nothing, you could play this, because it's still in the post-test, your opponent's just rolling 1s, and you get another go at trying to get a decent roll out of it. And then Sucker from the Week and Feasting with Friends, as we talked about, this is why Hidemi is in the list. You can leech from him. I would usually put this on Akita, like in turn 2. This guy is going to have 1 key at the start of turn 2. He can then Cultist to go up to 2, and then have that leeched off to Akita. And then Feasting with Friends, like later on, maybe turn 3, turn 4, he's just going to get killed with Feasting with Friends and give 4 key off probably to Akita or someone who needs it. Which is, again, why I like Hidemi. He's going to break open the egg sac turn 1 with Cultist ability. Then, again, using his Cultist ability turn 2, provide for Sucker from the Week, and then later on be just 4 key. And other than that, he is still a pass token walking around, and he can press a button if he can. And I picked Hidemi especially as I don't want him fighting, I don't want him dying, and he still has a javelin, so yeah, you might throw one, right? That's kind of cool. Okay, and yeah, this list is disgusting in my opinion. You're just playing nice and slow, you're taking it easy turn 1. What I would probably do is, like, for example, Amy could run up 6 inches, and then with her second action is she places the first web ground. And she plays it in a way that she's just barely inside it, and she leaves room on the other side, somewhere else, for the other models to come in. So, for example, later on, Akita could then run in with her 6 inches, and then you get a free weight action, because she has that ability on the back of her card to place a second one. And maybe if you're cleverer than me, you can do it in a way where you can also get Ayumi in there for turn 1, and you can have another one. And again, these are free weight actions, so these would all be on one action spent so far, and you've already got quite a significant area of terrain filled with X-axis. Actually, we're going to just jump into the mod itself, because black on black is difficult to see. Please bear with me while the game loads. There we go. Objects, saved objects, lists, broken. Because I think these are low-key broken if played well. There we go. So here we go. Let's just say we're starting here. We're running up 6 inches. Boom. Getting our web ground. Please excuse the scuffed nature of this. Let's just say we're going to place it like that, or diagonally, or whatever have you. You can also conceivably do it like this, just about in touching. And then Akita, let's just say she's here or something, runs up her 6 inches. Well, look how silly I've done it there. So obviously this probably has to be something like this. There we go. To maximize it, now she's touching. And let's just assume we're playing the 3 idols. Just for context, this is where we are already. Oh dear, what have I pressed there? Let's not do that. There we go. And now, like, my second card can already be here and threatening an idol. And again, I can put it under the idol as well. So let's just say I go over here. Maybe I want to rotate this a little bit more. This is really nice on Tabletop Simulator. Like, you're just not going to move things out of the way or bump things. It can be nice and precise like that. And I've moved it up a little bit. There you go. Something like that. And boom. Let's lock that in place. Lock that in place. And with the first 2 activations, I'm already threatening the middle idol. And then, I don't know, someone like Amy. No, she can't do it. She channels. Oh yeah, this is what Kyo is there for. Kyo, she runs up 6. If I had only placed that correctly. Again, this is... You have to be a little bit more careful than me. I'm just doing this quite slapdash. And maybe we can place it like there. Just as an example. And it's really hard for the opponent to already get into contact with this idol without being webbed, slowed down, and poisoned. So this is how you should think about the Awoken. And obviously you have web victims as well in context. Again, look at my other video where I talk about this a little bit more coherently. Because Akita wants to be in contact with this, and so does probably Ayumi and Amy. So you have to figure out a clever way of doing that. Just play around with it on the kitchen table or in Tabletop Simulator. Yeah. And then once enemy models that are scary come into contact with your web ground or are close by, let's just saying there's an enemy here. We're all going to pretend this is Hagane now, right here, and she's like, haha, I'm not in your webs. And you're like, oh, yeah, you are. Excuse me, may I demonstrate to you? Now you are within a web, and now Ayumi is going to poison you. Akita will activate and curse you, and I don't know, somebody, let's just say Amy now is going to walk up and kill you. And that's Hagane out of the game, right there. And this is why well-played Awoken are terrifying, because they're so oppressive. They can just take away so much of the board, and if I'm going to be honest, I think we don't even know how strong they are yet, just because the Awoken players need more practice. It's just a new faction. We don't know how good they are yet, and I think they might be super top tier if played correctly, and not running into a soulless anti-list that doesn't care about them. They can shred many matchups if played well. Like, obviously, this is all very much ideal scenario, and the opponent is going to mess with your plans and try not to allow this. But if you haven't run into this before, this is just disgusting. On the same vein, if you're playing casually, don't do this to people. You're not going to have playing partners for long if this is how every game goes. Also, try and steer away from Fear 8 and 9 lists in casual play, or inform your opponent beforehand that you're going to do it, just so everybody has a better time. Obviously, you have to figure out for yourself what you want to do with your hobby space and what is important to you. But believe me, in the long term, not crushing your friends and keeping them as your playing partners is the better way forward. And yeah. I think that will basically conclude the video. If you have more questions, more answers, something you'd like me to go into more detail to, please do ask, and I'll endeavor to make it possible. Either I'll reply in the comments or I'll make a follow-up video. And again, this is all with a big pinch of salt, the entire video. I don't play this faction. I just play against it a lot. So I might not have the perfect idea of some of the concepts. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in and listening, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye.